Hey book lovers, my name is Em and I want to talk about books. And cats. Hey book lovers, so I've got Andy with me today for the whole episode.
I'm here.
And we're going to talk about one of our favorites, Stephen King.
I mean, he's really the only author that I read. That's not true,
That's not true. You've been reading a lot of that Jack Ketchum guy.
Yes. Or at least listening to it.
Well, same thing.
Same thing.
So, yeah, today we actually listened to an audiobook of Stephen King's newest, Billy Summers. So we're going to start with talking about that. So warning, if you haven't read this, there will be spoilers, because there has to be.
Yes.
So if you don't want spoilers, skip ahead to after the break.
It's nice that you give spoiler warnings. Some people don't.
I try to. I've messed it up a couple of times, but especially with new books, I try to, because, you know, it's fairly recent.
Yeah.
People might not have read it yet. So, this book made me feel all kinds of ways.
I can agree with that.
I will say it was enjoyable. I enjoyed most of it, but it's one of his... Stephen King tends to do either, like, more realistic, but it's always kind of like the White Knight thing where the guy has to, like, save whoever, you know, he's a hero in some way.
Yes.
The tragic hero.
This guy was the anti-hero.
Yeah, they're almost always kind of an anti-hero.
That is true.
But...
he writes flawed people.
Yes, and I like that. I find that interesting. But when it comes to Stephen King, I prefer the things that are a little more like, you know, magical or just not of this world, you know?
See, I tend to go the other direction. I think some of the ones that I've found the most scary are the ones that are just like some dude that's super scary.
Yeah. Well, I think real people are scarier overall, but I just like the fantasy.
Mm.
Yeah, I thought you would like this one better than I did.
I did. I feel like it was very sort of almost got that pulp thing, like the sort of Pulp Fiction, like, I mean, it's a little more refined than that, but it's still got that, like, he's a killer. He kills for the mob.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
he's a man alone in a room with a gun. I think that was like the tag for that. Like the thing on the back of the book.
I think it's interesting because it's not a, he usually goes somewhere weird with books, and this just wasn't weird at all. It was just kind of
No, it was mostly, well...
like a mob hitman story with some war thrown in.
Yeah, with some, like, flashbacks. I was going to say it was very linear, but he does go back. So I will say, like, the first half of the book I really liked because it was like he was getting ready to do a hit and there was a lot of like flashing back to his past because he was writing a book. And I actually enjoyed that, I think, more than the actual story. Like the book that he was writing, I liked better. But then we got, of course, the damsel in distress.
Yeah.
And I immediately was like, oh, come on. And then, of course, it turns into, like...
she loves him.
She's 20, and she doesn't want to bang the 50-year-old. I don't care if she has, like, Stockholm Syndrome or whatever. Like, she doesn't want to. Stop.
The thing I find interesting about Stephen King novels at this point is that because we like him so much and we have such high expectations, if he writes a pretty good book, we're like... what the hell?
Oh, I know. It was fine.
It's better than most books
but
I've read.
He has certain things that he uses all the time. And he was showing his age in this book too. Like there was occasional like references to modern technology. So you knew that it was set in like modern times, but there were parts that could have been set in the 80s, you know?
Yes, or the 60s.
Yeah.
He's always sort of all over the place. He doesn't write kids very well.
No, he doesn't write kids well at all.
I wonder if he has grandkids.
I don't know.
I don't know if either of his kids have kids.
No. He doesn't write women super well either. It's always that like, Like, she was fine, and she had her moments. There's always a little bit of strength in there, but it's like the broken girl, and she's strong anyway, and like, I'm over it. Like, I'm done. So once she came into the picture, I was like, oh, God. Like, all right. And then it kind of just, I felt like from that point on, it kind of went downhill.
Well, it just became a retribution story.
Yeah.
And then it was like, they tagged the whole thing at the end, like, where they had to go get the main big bad guy.
Oh,
and you
yeah.
didn't know why he was bad or that he even existed.
Or why he wanted this guy killed. Because initially, Billy has to do a hit, and then he figures out that even though he's worked with the same guy forever and trusts him, he figures out that they're planning to kill him. So he gets away from that. And then he confronts that guy and then finds out that there's this other, like, higher up guy who wants him dead for some reason. But
a reason that, like, is explained that isn't foreshadowed in any way. It's like it's tacked on to the end
that
of the
guy doesn't
thing.
even exist until, like, the last third of the book. Like, you don't even know about him.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Some of the most important characters in this didn't show up until the last, like, third of the book.
Yeah, and then I found the ending just very kind of disappointing.
Yeah.
Because, it ends up, Should we give away the ending?
Meh, whatever.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. That book was fine. That's the thing. Like, if you don't read Stephen King all the time,
B+.
Totally fine.
If you read Stephen King and you compare it to Stephen King books,
you're going to be frustrated.
C-.
Yeah. That, and he brings up the freaking Overlook Hotel again. And I know he likes to, like, weave his books together into this whole, like, Stephen King universe, but, like, use a different one. Like, The Shining has been beat to death. Like, I read one thing that was like, people were hoping that this might mean that there's going to be some other, like, post-Doctor Sleep book. And I was like, oh, please, no. Like, haven't we done enough with this thing? Like...
Yeah, we don't want a sequel to the sequel. We didn't even really want a sequel. Dr. Sleep was great.
I like Dr. Sleep a lot, but I don't want any more. Like, I feel like the Overlook Hotel has run its course, you know?
It's, it burned to the ground, so...
Yeah, I know, it didn't even really exist in this book. It was in, like, a picture and then, like, a ghost vision, basically. Yeah, so, mixed reviews on that one, but only because expectations were high.
Yeah, we love you, Stephen King.
Yeah.
You're still doing great. I was saying the other day that I really want, like, them to release, like, all of the things that he didn't like from, like, the 70s and 80s and 90s.
Oh, man, I don't know.
Oh, I want all of it. I want it.
I would read it, but I don't know. I already feel like there's been a couple of the more recent ones where I've read them and been like, I don't know if I enjoyed this enough, if it's like, or if it's tarnishing my like fondness for his writing, because he's been like my favorite writer for a long time.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. I don't think that's the case anymore. Just because there's some that I don't know.
I find him fascinating because he has, like, he's a horror writer, but he also has like a softer edge. Like, I'm listening to a book right now.
Oh, some are gruesome now.
Oh my God! This Jack Ketchum book I'm listening to is just like absolutely brutal.
I don't know if I'll be reading any of his stuff. That doesn't sound like something I want to be involved in. So that's Billy Summers in a nutshell. And now we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about something that we had low expectations for, which is the newest movie version of The Dark Tower.
I think the only movie version of The Dark Tower.
Yeah, that's true. No one else has tried to tackle it. And we're back. So, Dark Tower.
Dark Tower.
Let's first discuss your history with the Dark Tower series.
When I was younger, much younger, like middle school, I started reading the first Dark Tower book. And it bored the hell out of me. And I put it down for probably a year. And then I picked it up again. And I was like, I'm going to fight my way through this book because I really like his other books.
Yeah.
and I read that one, and by the time I got to the end, I was like totally hooked, and there was a second book. And I read that one, and I don't think I've ever blasted through a book faster than that one. Like, I think that was like 600 pages, and I think I read it in like less than a month, which was that was really fast for me as like a kid.
Yeah.
And then I read the third book. I think it was called The Wastelands.
Yeah, that was my favorite.
And that was where it ended at that point. Like, he hadn't written any more of the books. And I was like, man, that sucks. Fast forward like 30 years.
Yeah.
And I was into listening to audiobooks, and I ended up getting all of the entire series. And I'm like,
There's 7, right?
7.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and all of them, I think the shortest one is like 400 pages. Some of them...
the later books are really long.
Yeah, like 800 pages.
Yeah.
I think all told, it was well over 100 hours of listening, because I think several of them were 40 hours. So I think it might even be close to 200 hours.
It took you almost like... It took you like 4 months to get through them all, right?
Yeah. All I was listening to was the Dark Tower series for like every day for like, it was from like a January to like May.
Yeah.
And
it's wild.
part of me kind of wishes I hadn't, but I was glad to like get to the end of it. But I'll tell you, by the time I was about halfway through the 6th book, I was like, what are they going to do in the 7th book? And like, it just went on and on and on. So that's my experience with it. I'm glad I read it all.
Yeah. I think you read it at a good age too. Like, especially being like a middle school boy and having, what's the kid's name?
Oh, Danny Torrance. No, it's not Danny Torrance.
No, that's the Shining.
We're back at the Shining.
We're back at the Overlook Hotel again.
Oh, man, I can't remember his name.
Anyway.
Yes.
Yeah. The boy in it would be the same age as you at the time. I started reading them in high school, which I think was a little late. Again, it's that like, like just the lone man, and he's broken, and but he's a hero. Like, it's just that, I don't know. It's just not my thing. I think it's kind of like a Western thing, and that is just not my vibe.
That was the strange thing about it, was that it was a Western. It was like
sci-fi Western.
But it also had the elements of like living in the castle and in the kingdom.
Oh,
like,
yeah, that's right. I forgot about that part.
So it was like, instead of swords, they had guns, and he had a raven, and like...
Yes, and his gun was forged from the steel of, like, Arthur's freaking Excalibur or whatever. I only got through book 4, which I think was the one with the train, because I liked the train.
The train was 3.
Okay, that's why I like 3 so much. That was my favorite one.
And then 4 continued that, and then 5 was, like, a flashback.
Yes, see, I started 5, and that's where I gave up.
Like, 5 was like literally an entire book of flashback to when he was younger.
Was that like the romance one?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I read most of that one, and then I was like, I don't want to read any more of this. So I actually, like, I always claim that I've read all of Stephen King's stuff, but I haven't read the last 2 Dark Tower books. So I don't feel like I'm missing out.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, I don't remember what happened other than the end of the book.
Yeah.
I don't really remember. I remember that, and that they went to meet Stephen King.
Oh, yeah, you did say that Stephen King was in it.
And I was like, what are we doing, man? Like,
see, writers often put themselves in their stories, but they don't usually put themselves in, like, with their name. Like, you'll read a book and there's like a certain character and you're like, oh, that's the author, but it's not the author. It's just kind of like them.
Well, this thing, it was all about like the different worlds. And in this world, they were characters, but in that world, like, he was a person who was making their world or whatever. Like,
oh, that's like a god complex.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
It was something like that. I don't remember. I just remember getting there and being like, this is a real weird thing for you to do, man. Like, what are we doing here?
So my question was, how did they turn 7 books into an hour-and-a-half movie? But you said it was just supposed to be the first book, right?
Yes, and
it wasn't anything.
It wasn't anything. That is the thing I find fascinating about this movie. So we watched the Dark Tower movie.
Yes, with Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba. And honestly, it was good. It was fine.
It was a fine movie, but
if you have to separate it completely.
Well, but that's the thing is like the people that you would have to be marketing it for are literally people like us who have read the book but are willing to say, like, I think I liked it because I had heard it was so terrible and it wasn't.
Yeah, I heard it was awful.
And it wasn't anything like the book. And so I was like, okay, lots of his books do that. Yeah, I'm just going to take this as a movie. And so I was like, oh yeah, it's got some references to the to the book and like that, you know. Oh,
and then it just kind of jumps the rails at one point.
Several points. Just like the whole purpose of the story, the whole story has changed.
Oh yeah.
It has nothing to do. It's like they took.
It's like the Cliff Notes. Sort of.
Yes,
not even.
Yes, if you just took like
the
half
characters.
of the Cliff Notes and threw them away and then replaced it with a different storyline, but then had elements of the story in there so that it was like a nod to the people watching it. Like, he talks like he did in the book.
But if you have not read the books, you'd be like, what the hell is this? Because they did the Gunslingers.
The Gunslingers
thing.
Code.
Yeah.
Like,
I want to say mantra.
Shoot with my eyes. I shoot with my mind.
I have forgotten the face of my father.
Yeah, just like a whole bunch of stuff that was said over and over in the book that was elements of his whole character.
Yeah, the soul of his character, really. But you had no idea if you watched the movie.
Which is such a bizarre thing. It's why it failed, because you were either showing it to people who loved The Dark Tower, who were excited to see it.
The movie.
And they hated it because it had nothing to do with the books.
Yeah.
Or you turn it around the other way, and you have people who knew nothing about the book that went to see it, and it was just this
confusing.
Totally confusing, weird thing.
Yeah.
Like, it was such a strange idea for a movie.
Yeah, it was bizarre. It had it kind of felt like they took ideas from a bunch of old Tom Cruise movies, like all of his action movies, and then just kind of crammed them all together. And Matthew McConaughey had moments where he was so good as the creepy, man in black. But then there were other moments where we just kept going all right. Because it's the same goddamn character that he always does. It was distracting.
Well, and there was this whole storyline about, he's trying to destroy the tower, but in order to destroy the tower, he needs to capture, the psychic abilities of various children.
The kids with the shine. Frickin' shine is back.
And he's in this big castle thing or fortress thing, and none of that existed. There was nothing. He was just a guy who would show up and be evil occasionally. He was barely in.
Yeah, he didn't really have. He was the main driving force in the plot of the movie, but in the book he was just kind of an extra character that came in to mess with Roland.
Yeah. There really was no good way to make that movie. I think if they were going to, what they would have had to do is literally made a Netflix special that was 10 episodes long per book.
Or a Harry Potter type deal where you just do a movie per book.
That's true, but
although those last couple of movies would be awful.
Well, and the weird thing is, the first one,
well, that wouldn't be good either. He's
book,
just walking around.
Yeah, the whole book is literally him walking.
Yeah, and
he never really gets anywhere.
No,
and he ends up the whole thing is he has to sacrifice the kid.
Yeah,
and that's the whole thing. He follows the guy, and then the man in black makes him sacrifice the kid.
Yeah,
and so that's not a movie.
No, that's true. Maybe you could crush a couple of them together. but he doesn't even sacrifice the kid. The kid is a major character, more of a character than the gunslinger in this one, really.
Yes. Yeah, they really
He was a good actor.
I would love to know what the process was for creating this movie. Who was going
who knows?
Okay, well, you can't cut that. Well, we have to cut that. Well, what are you going to replace it with? Oh, well, we'll just make it he has to psychically steal the kid's energy. Oh, also, there's guys with double skins. Don't worry about it.
Oh, yeah, that was weird, too. They had, one of them didn't have a face on, and he was, a rat person.
Yes.
But then the rest of them had skin faces.
And I feel like that was a, like, sort of a nod to, like, the, was it, like, Desperation and that other book?
Oh, yes, the Regulators.
Yeah, the Regulators, where they were, like, everybody was a weird, like, sort of animal person.
That. Oh, weird.
They were like birds, though, weren't they?
I don't remember. I barely remember those.
Yeah.
Oh, I hadn't even thought about that. Interesting.
Yeah, but they weren't in this one, I don't think.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I have.
It was interesting. It was an experience.
It was an okay movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't bad. If you're not like a rabid Stephen King like purist, it's fine.
Which you can't be if you're watching the movies.
No, like, even he does it. Like, I don't know if he's involved in the newer stuff, but I know with the older ones, he used to say, like, he wrote the book and then it was just like hands off. Like, do whatever you want with it.
Let me be in a scene.
Yeah, let me be in it, but like, I'm not going to write the screenplay or anything, which is why some of them were so bad. But I love a bad Stephen King movie.
Well, you know what he did? You know what he did too that I thought was interesting. Have you ever seen the thing that he releases some of his short stories to beginner film students? He calls them his dollar babies.
Oh,
and he'll just give them the rights to the story for $1 so that they can make it into whatever they want.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No,
I saw that. I think I read it the other day, and I thought that was such a cool idea.
Man. That must be so awesome to be one of those students.
Yeah, seriously.
Although then you have to, I don't know. It seems like there'd be some pressure behind that too.
For some reason, it always, like, when I read that, I immediately flashed to whatever the short story book was where the guy was trapped in the porta potty, and I was like, I would love to see the, like...
Oh, that story was so gross.
It was the worst.
Oh, yeah, I did not like that one. Oof. Oh, we listened to that one too. That's why it was so like...
Oh, yeah.
Because that would have been a story where if I was reading it, I would have just skimmed it. Like, I would have just gotten the gist and moved on. But like, we listened to that one and that was very, very graphic.
That's one thing I find funny about audiobooks is that you're
in it.
Yeah, you're captured by the person like reading to you. And
yeah.
Like I've listened to a few... what was the guy's name that wrote the Polotnik, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like
he's got some disturbing ones.
Yeah, there were some books where I'd be like walking along.
Fight Club's nothing.
No, Fight Club is pretty
that's like one of his tamer ones.
Yeah. He's a strange guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a new well, it's not new, but I have one of his that I haven't read that I'm planning on reading soon. Although I'm thinking maybe for October I might just stick with Stephen King, but we'll see.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
Yeah. So I think that's enough Stephen King talk for now. Do we have any cat stuff? Oh, let me tell you how our littlest cat woke me up this morning.
Okay.
So I woke up to my alarm. I set another alarm because I wanted to sleep a little more. And I roll over, and it's like just dim in my room, but just enough light. And I open my eyes, and I see this thing that looks like a finger from a horror movie, like a big long thing right over my face. And it scared me so much that I went, oh! And it was the cat's tail. She was sitting right next to me. And then I scared her, and she ran away.
I'm always amazed that... I'm sure you've probably talked about the cat that can say hello.
I don't know if I've mentioned his abilities for that.
So, Zeus...
I have talked about Zeus, yeah, our old boy.
Yes, when he really wants to be fed, or if everybody's upstairs sometimes...
Yeah,
he'll go... Hello, hello, and it sounds remarkably like hello.
More and more so.
And our eldest child, who... That's his cat.
Yes, they are bonded. Spirit animal.
Makes that same thing. And they have started sounding so much like each other.
You can't tell them apart.
Yeah, I'll be like, oh, is that the kid or is that the cat? I can't tell.
You never know. Yeah. It's so funny. Yeah, I mean... Z, like, nails the pitch of the cat's, like, hello. But he has started, like, matching Z, too. So It just sounds like... He sounds like a person. It's wild.
I like having conversations with that cat, because he'll look up at you and, like, make a noise. And then I like to try to make the noise at the exact same time he does, because he gets really...
It confuses him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's funny. Yeah, other than that, I don't think they've been doing too much.
Well, I mean, we moved a bunch of stuff around in our house, and now we have some mattresses downstairs until I can take them to the dump. And now there's more levels in the
we
house.
Can climb and be right up by the ceiling. It's so exciting. We can knock them over.
I saw a video of a cat the other day it was like a Siamese cat, and it could literally climb a wall.
Whoa.
Like it was just clinging
Spider-Man.
to the wall. Yeah, it was nuts.
Spider cat.
So I bet that if you get like clawed by that cat,
Oof,
I bet that is
I
painful.
bet that's vicious. So normally I like to do a quote of the week, and it usually turns into quotes because I can't ever pick one of anything.
Okay.
You know. So I picked a bunch of Stephen King quotes because, he's our theme. So tell me your thoughts, I guess.
All right, yeah, lay it on me.
The first one is one of my favorites. Monsters are real and ghosts are real too. They live inside us and sometimes they win.
All right,
Can't remember what that's from, but I love that one.
Well, that's good.
And that's so Stephen King. That's like basically the gist of all of his books.
Yes, either there are real ghosts or somebody's killing somebody.
Yeah. There's a monster one way or another. The next one I hadn't actually read before. It was the most important things are the hardest to say because words diminish them. I like that from like a writer perspective,
Yep.
Because some things like it can be very frustrating if you're a writer to not be able to put something into words, but there are definitely things where like words make it less poignant.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
That's why people write music.
Yes, true.
Or do art.
Or dance, or yeah. And then the trust of the innocent is the liar's most useful tool. I hadn't heard that one either, but I like that too.
Oh, I like that. I like that very much.
He's got so many good quotes. Like, it was really hard to pick.
That goes along with the book that I'm reading right now, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the guy who is the bad guy in it keeps talking about how, like, he's just disgusted by anyone who would trust anybody because they're just so stupid to let, like, to let anybody, like, think that they were safe, basically.
Wow, that's dark. Yeah. I mean, it's not... There's some honesty in that, but it's sad.
Well, I mean, he's also, like...
Yeah. What's the book called?
Stranglehold.
Stranglehold by Jack Ketchum.
Yeah.
So if you're into something intense, go for that.
Oh, yeah. Trigger warning, super child abuse.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, I definitely won't be reading that one. Yeah, he sounds like an interesting writer, though.
Yeah, he is. Everything I've read, he wrote one called The Woman that was, like, just about a dude who finds, like, a feral woman and, like, keeps her.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
I'd be more interested
They made
in
a movie about that one, too, and it was pretty good.
Oh, okay.
I feel like we might have watched that.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. Huh.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, he's a good writer, but just...
just rough.
Real rough, yeah. There are no happy endings.
No. All right. Well, thank you for being on my podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Talking about Stephen King like we always do.
I enjoy that.
Me too. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening, book lovers. And until next time, keep reading.